Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Local leaders are coming together in search of solutions to the housing and homelessness crisis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. For 30 months now, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness has counted more people becoming unhoused for the first time compared to those who are being rehoused. The problem is countywide. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer has a look at a gathering today in Escondido working to change that.
It was a gathering featuring faith and focus on the ongoing problems of homelessness in North County.
At its simplest level, the increase in homelessness is the result of housing unaffordability.
Interfaith Community Services holds a meeting every year with volunteers, donors, and community members to talk about what's working and what's needed to help those who are unhoused. This year, they also invited North County officials to take part in the discussion inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Escondido.
Today, the Escondido mayor joined us, and he shared about the need to create more beds for people overcoming addiction issues. And so we're working in partnership with the city of Escondido and the county of San Diego to create additional detox beds.
Also in attendance for the first time at the annual meeting were elected officials from Carlsbad, San Marcos, and Oceanside, including San Marcos Mayor Rebecca Jones. Her city is providing rental assistance and case management to those on the brink of losing their housing.
In San Marcos, we have really been very intentional about our affordable housing. So we have about 10% of our housing stock, 3,300 units, that are deed restricted affordable. So that's how we have actually really helped people not get into homelessness.
Oceanside City Council member Eric Joyce says homelessness doesn't know borders, and North County cities must work together.
If we want to really put a dent in homelessness, if we really want to solve the problems instead of moving people along city to city, then we have to get on the same page and we have to invest in the solutions that we know work, which is actual housing first model, fully invested with a continuum of care that meets people where they're at.
Homelessness today is very different than it was 5 years ago. So, you know, a lot of folks are really on the cusp of homelessness, which I did talk a little bit about that as well. And, you know, sometimes it's just a month or two of rent that can help them when they are facing a loss of job or something like that. So,
Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up on KPBS tonight, we're talking about temperatures dropping back to the 50s as some of those low clouds developing again near the coast. Pretty pleasant weather to wrap up the week. Enjoy that while it lasts, because we're watching the next round of storms start to move on through. I'll let you know what that means for your weekend coming up.
Misinformation, mistakes, and in some cases flat-out malice. All of it making headlines over the final days of this volatile election season. Two election officials from key swing states say despite this, they're confident the vote count will be secure and accurate. Laura Aguirre reports.
A slew of anti-Semitic remarks allegedly hurled at a poll worker outside a West Palm Beach, Florida library. The man arrested, now facing multiple charges, according to affiliate WPTV. The risk of verbal assaults or worse are a chief concern for many election officials nationwide.
I think that we need to not pretend that that sort of rhetoric of killing or assaulting election officials is okay.
Other recent attacks on the voting process include fires set in some ballot boxes and postal boxes across at least 3 states, with investigations underway and suspects still at large. Acts of intimidation and reported threats aren't the only concerns.
In 30 years of voting, I've never had that many ballots that don't belong to me.
A Bellevue, Washington woman received 16 ballots in her mailbox, most with a different name. News affiliate King put her in touch with a local election official who said they will investigate the mailing error, but gave assurances that ultimately only one ballot per registered voter with a matching signature is counted.
The guardrails we have in place is repeating to the voters out there that we know what the process is going to look like on election day.
Processes that can vary from state to state, but often involve multiple steps, hand count audits, and other safeguards.
We have multiple ways to ensure that our elections are secure, transparent, fair, and accurate.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
With record turnout being reported during early voting in many states, election officials say patience will also be key. Wisconsin's Elections Commission chair says it's likely the state's final tallies won't be available until the very early morning hours of November 6th. The San Diego Union Tribune is among a growing number of newspapers declining to endorse any presidential candidate. Gannett is the latest publication to join the trend. A spokesperson says despite the recent announcement, their chief content manager decided against presidential endorsements last year. The Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post also declined to publish endorsements. In our next Why It Matters segment, our Public Matters partner Scott Lewis helps explain another proposition on the ballot. This question to voters will have a big impact in San Diego.
Several ballot measures have gotten most of the attention in California the last few weeks, but one of them, Proposition 5, is flying under the radar. Proposition 5, though, has more potential to reshape cities than any other proposition on the ballot. Let's say the city of San Diego came up with a plan called Replace Disgusting Buildings. It would be a tax that would go to the new Ocean Beach Pier, to fix crumbling buildings in Balboa Park, and to replace all the bathrooms in parks. If the city listed everything it would pay for, 2/3 of voters would have to approve it. So the city would probably never do a ballot measure that way. If Proposition 5 passed, they would get another option. They could borrow money through a bond and then raise property taxes to pay it off. Crucially, they would need only 55% of voters to approve it. Getting 2/3 of voters to do anything is hard. 55% is much easier. That's why you see so many school bonds on the ballot. For almost 25 years, school districts have been able to do this. Proposition 5 would allow cities to put similar bonds on the ballot and make promises about what exactly would be built. Supporters included affordable housing in the list of infrastructure projects that could be built. Here was Assemblymember Chris Ward at our recent debate.
We're talking about what should that threshold be for some of the greatest community demands that are out there right now, right? At 2/3, it has been incredibly prohibitive to even see a future that would be able to deliver on the demands that we have today, let alone what we would hope to have for in the future.
But State Senator Brian Jones doesn't think local governments have earned that trust.
There's no other purpose for Prop 5 other than to make it easier for irresponsible politicians, very aggressive and highly paid political consultants, and Wall Street bankers to take money out of your pocket and put it in their pocket.
If Proposition 5 passed, you'd see as many city bonds on the future ballots as you see school bonds now. I'm Scott Lewis, and that's Why It Matters.
Voice of San Diego is one of our partners in the Public Matters Initiative. You can see more of our stories on politics and civil engagement at kpbs.org/publicmatters. Voters from several cities in San Diego County will be deciding on whether to raise taxes or continue existing taxes in their hometowns. And KPBS reporter John Carroll has been looking into what the various taxes are for. And John, there are 4 cities in the East County you've been looking at.
That's right, Maya. They are El Cajon, Santee, Lemon Grove, and La Mesa. 2 of the measures would extend current taxes, while the others are for new taxes. Let's start in El Cajon. Measure J would extend a half-cent sales tax currently set to end in 2028. It would stay in place through April of 2049. The city says the $13 million raised annually by the tax is critical to funding El Cajon's public safety operations. The San Diego County Taxpayers Association opposed the tax when it was on the ballot in 2008, but the group supports it now, partly because Measure J would create an oversight committee comprised of residents along with people selected by the Taxpayers Association and a local business advocacy group. Now, in La Mesa, voters will be asked to extend the city's 3/4 cent sales tax. The city says the $12 million the tax raises annually funds public safety along with city infrastructure, including streets, sidewalks, parks, and storm drains. La Mesa's mayor says renewing the tax will let the city maintain high-quality services for the community. The measure has strong support from La Mesa's two biggest public safety unions. It is also supported by the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. The SDCTA says La Mesa has demonstrated the need, has long-term plans for the funds, and there's a sunset clause.
Now, John, is there any organized opposition to either of the measures?
Well, the only opposition I could find comes from Carl DeMaio's Reform California organization. They say the funds would not specifically be earmarked for public safety or, for that matter, for infrastructure.
And what about the measures in Santee and Lemon Grove?
So those are both new taxes. Santee's Measure S would increase sales taxes by 0.5% from 7.75% to 8.25% for 15 years. It includes a 7-member oversight committee. The city says the funds are needed to renovate an existing firehouse, as well as building and staffing 2 new facilities. Proponents of the measure say Santee has not added an additional fire station since 1964. They say approval of the tax increase will address issues identified in the 2023 Santee Community Risk Assessment, including bringing 90% of the city into a 4-minute response time for first responders. They also say approval would actually save the city money by reducing insurance premiums. And they say the money would fund 6 additional firefighter paramedics. It is supported by the Santee Firefighters Association, Santee Mayor John Minto, and the San Diego Democratic Party, among other groups. But the Taxpayers Association opposes this one because they say it engages in ballot box budgeting, which they say is a dangerous practice for the provision of any public good or service.
All right. Well, what about Lemon Grove?
Right. Voters there will decide whether to approve Measure T. It would raise the sales tax in the city by 1 cent. The city says it needs the revenue to fix potholes, repair storm drains, and improve the safety and quality of life there. It says its storm drains are now 50 or more years old and they are starting to fail. The city says that has cascading effects, leading to damage done to city streets, to sinkholes, and flooding. The city also says it needs the money to ensure rapid response to 911 emergencies.
But this one has the support of San Diego County Taxpayers Association, right?
That's right. They say it's because Measure T has a commitment to transparency, fiscal accountability, and sustainability. And it has a sunset clause. The association also says the measure addresses crucial infrastructure needs that cannot be met without this increase.
Now, John, who opposes it?
Once again, Carl DeMaio's Reform California. Their reason is pretty much the same reason they give for opposing all the other tax measures that they oppose, that the city would not be required to spend it on what they claim they'll spend it on, and that funds will instead go to raises for city workers and to what the reform organization calls bloated pensions for those workers.
Great work. Thank you so much, KPBS reporter John Carroll. And you can read up on these tax measures and the rest of what's on your ballot at the KPBS Voter Hub. It's online at kpbs.org/voterhub. And we want to let you know about our plans for election night. KPBS will have special coverage of the local results, and that starts at 10 o'clock on television, and it's also streaming online. We will also have updates throughout the night on KPBS FM.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, why a college degree is becoming a telltale sign of which party voters support. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A Del Mar-based nonprofit is working to remove plastics and other waste from Tijuana River tributaries before it enters the Pacific Ocean. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says they've installed a second net to capture trash in Tijuana.
Wild Coast installed its first trash boom in Los Laureles Canyon in 2021. Since then, it's caught more than 239,000 pounds of solid waste, plastic, and tires. This week, they added a second trash boom at a cement basin in Matadero Canyon. It's made out of a recycled drift net.
Matadero is a famous canyon because in 2017, 18, and then again in 22, we had a big flood there, like a lake, a fetid lake that you could smell much before you could see it, because the hole where the water exits and goes down to the Tijuana River got full with trash, and it got stuck.
Together, Wild Coast estimates that the two trash booms will stop more than 160,000 pounds of trash from entering the Pacific Ocean each year. That trash can end up on San Diego beaches. Crevichet says rapid population growth in Tijuana has strained trash collection services.
The problem with Tijuana is that the trash is picked in a very disorganized manner and in the very underserved, as you call them, neighborhoods, really underserved. There is very little pickup.
She says animals get into bagged trash and rain carries it into waterways. Wild Coast hires community members to collect and sort what's caught in the trash booms. They can recycle the plastic at plastic recovery points Wild Coast manages in Tijuana.
We have plans for more trash booms and more points. We want to take all Tijuana and make it an example for Mexico of how you can solve a difficult problem.
She says it's a piece of the cross-border pollution issue locals can help stop at the source. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Progress is being made in the way San Diegans are recycling almost 3 years since SB 1383 took effect. That is the law requiring organic waste recycling. According to numbers from the city since 2022, the amount of organic waste collected has gone up from about 90,000 tons that year to 158,000 tons in 2024.
Might not seem like a big deal, but putting your food scraps into your bin or your excess plant materials from when you're gardening, putting all of those in your green bin, all of that helps.
Additionally, the amount of garbage collected has fallen from 839,000 tons to 695,000. Julie Sands says that is the biggest solid waste change we've had in over 20 years. One border artist is reimagining abandoned Baja buildings as lost souls. KPBS arts reporter Julia Dixon-Evans explores how 46 Renacimientos reflects remembrance loss.
At the height of the 2008 housing crisis, 46 high-rise construction projects were abandoned from Tijuana to Ensenada. Architectural artist Alvaro Alvarez says the developments were meant to bring pride to the Baja region and affordable luxury housing for Americans.
$3 billion in sales, 12,500 homes, 65,000 jobs, and it all became halted because of the financial crash. So for 15 years, they've been sitting on the beach as concrete and steel skeletons.
He's created 46 sculptural paintings to honor each abandoned building. Using discarded construction materials, trash, and paper mache, he renders the buildings and landscapes in grayscale, even the Pacific Ocean.
You get a sense of the weight and the solemnity of what happened, right? I like to represent that through form, through texture, relief, and shadow.
Alvarez will memorialize the buildings and their promise of eventual completion in a Dia de Muertos exhibit.
Day of the Dead was very important because it sort of put on this project, these 46 buildings, on the same plane as something as heavy as loss. As much as we discuss this as a rebirth, as a celebration, a lot of people suffer financial loss on this, and it's a difficult part of our history.
Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
And the exhibit is on view for one day only this Saturday from noon to 5 p.m. at Black Box Gallery in San Ysidro. Safety is top of mind as one of the biggest horse races in the world returns to the Del Mar racetracks on Friday. The Breeders' Cup avoided horse deaths in 4 events since 2019, but organizers say they're continuing to ramp up safety guidelines. One change, more veterinary reviews before and after races. Officials say they'll also test the race surfaces daily. Our media partner spoke to one trainer who says he's been making his horse bigger and stronger to compete.
He's getting taller than the springtime, and he's getting more powerful. But that's what he needed to handle the American races. So that's what he has done for the several months.
There are $30 million in total prizes this year. The Breeders' Cup will run Friday and Saturday.
Let's check out our weather headlines here because you'll want to soak up the dry and pleasant end to the week as we are watching rain and even some high mountain snow moving in Saturday through even early into Monday before we start to clear out but cool down as we head later into Monday and into next Tuesday. Looking ahead tonight, another chilly night, but not nearly as cold as our previous. Mount Laguna down to 37, Borrego Springs 46. San Diego will drop down to 53, and Chula Vista, Oceanside, temperatures will be dropping into the mid to upper 40s for most of us tonight. So certainly a jacket out the door to start the day here, but as we get into the afternoon, temperatures will be closer to the historical average. Some of that cooler air locked a bit further to our north. And speaking of that, Northern California, we'll start to see some areas of showers through our Thursday. We stay dry tomorrow for a nice sunny 80 degrees in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna a cooler 54, and San Diego temperatures will be into the upper 60s as we head into the day on Thursday. Look at this on Friday here. Pleasant. That's what we like to see as we wrap up the week and also begin the month of November. We take you out into the extended forecast here where we will start to see some areas of showers returning along the coast here as we head into the day Saturday. So hopefully you can get out and enjoy the sunshine and pleasant conditions for Thursday. And then by Friday, we start to see some clouds increase before those showers make their way back as we head into Saturday. But then pleasant and delightful are the words we use to describe the weather for Sunday and Monday. We take you further inland. We're a similar trend here with those showers returning throughout the day on Saturday. And we keep things mostly cloudy and cooler on Sunday before sunshine returns on Monday. Into the mountains we go where the cold weather takes over. We have clouds on the way for Saturday and Sunday, and we warm up on Monday. And we wrap up in the desert where we should stay mainly dry through the weekend. For KPBS, I'm Ariella Scalise.
No matter how high-tech our lives get, nothing can replace the experience of diving into a good book. But access isn't easy for everyone. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler found one small bookstore in Tijuana trying to bridge that gap.
Miguel Marquez San Juan walks down Avenida Calle Niños Eros, just 2 blocks off of Avenida Revolucion. Señor Marquez moved to Tijuana in 1984. Down this little alley sandwiched between an office supply store and an optometrist's office. Marquez opened his dream business.
Look at that. Me gusta mucho.
A bookstore called Libros, Café y Jazz.
Vine a Comala porque me dijeron que acá vivía mi padre, un tal Pedro Páramo. Mi madre me lo dijo y yo le prometí que vendría a verlo en cuanto ella muriera.
Marquez reads from the iconic Mexican novel Pedro Páramo. The film adaptation is set to premiere November 6th on Netflix. Marquez runs the shop with his daughters. They just celebrated the store's anniversary.
Esta librería acaba de cumplir 15 años.
Stacked floor to ceiling with books, the tiny shop aims to bring literature and music to Tijuanenses at accessible prices. From secondhand Mano Chao CDs to bedtime stories for rebellious girls, they've even got a poetry vending machine. Marquez saw a need in Tijuana in 2009.
Nada más estaban las librerías grandes, las clásicas de aquí, pero libro económico no había.
Tijuana does have options for borrowing books. For example, the Centro Cultural Tijuana, or Secut, has a library. You can't take books home, but everyone is welcome to read what's on the shelves.
Part of the mission of the Centro Cultural Tijuana is share this space for writers from the region.
That's Daniel Togalati from the Secut. He says the center's working to bring the joy of reading to Tijuana.
They feel an inspiration and they feel the possibility to new different worlds in this communication is between the writer and the reader.
Togolati says Secut and Libros Cafe y Jazz are on similar paths. Both support Tijuana's creative community in their own ways.
In this, global situation, we're working in 4 wheels and they are in a bicycle, but they are in the same place and we are sometimes in the same velocity. Sometimes we share the road.
Like Secut, Libros Cafe y Jazz host performances.
Por ejemplo, el próximo domingo, el próximo sábado, o sea mañana, vamos a prestar un grupo de jazz aquí. Se presenta aquí 20, 30 personas.
If you can't make the jazz performances, you might find Señor Marquez in his usual spot, reading Los Amorosos by Jaime Sabines, a poem he holds dear.
Los amorosos callan. El amor es el silencio más fino, el más tembloroso, el más insoportable.
Engaging in his cherished pastimes.
Siempre se están yendo, siempre hacia alguna parte. Esperan, no esperan nada, pero esperan.
Reading, listening to music, and sipping coffee.
Los amorosos se ponen a cantar entre labios una canción no aprendida y se van llorando, llorando la hermosa vida.
Matthew Bowler, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is discussing Governor Newsom's tax credit proposal to bring more film productions back to California. And KPBS Midday Edition has a preview of all of the best in arts and culture events around San Diego this weekend. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.